It's the morning weather briefing. This is for Tuesday, the 8th of October. This is James Spann. Of course, the focus is on Milton and the Gulf of Mexico, the impact on Florida, but Alabama going to be quiet for a while. It feels good this morning, nice and cool with the continental air mass dropping in here, but many things to talk about. So strap in. Let's go. Again, we have a deep vortex over eastern Canada, a northwest flow aloft that pushed a front through here yesterday. So again, we are in very dry air. Closest rain to Alabama, the southern tip of Florida, well in advance of Milton. Hey, I see 49 this morning for Aniana, 48 for Jasper. Wow. We've got 50 for Gadsden and Cullman, Birmingham 54. It finally feels like October. Not quite as cool for the southern half of the state, 60s there, but even Mobile is 68. That's not too bad. Obviously, around the nation, the big issue, it's the hurricane. Coming into Florida, there is a marginal risk of severe storms. That would be the chance of isolated tornadoes from Tampa Bay down to Key West and Miami tonight. Tomorrow, again, the chance of isolated tornadoes over the Florida Peninsula, especially along and south of Interstate 4. And on day 3, which is Thursday, a marginal risk, again, for the possibility of isolated tornadoes from near Melbourne down to Miami. Rain for the next 7 days, and you can see the big numbers are obviously in the Florida Peninsula. Rain amounts there between 5 and 9 inches. For Alabama, nothing. We're going dry for at least the next 7 days and probably longer than that. So in the tropics, here's the big picture. We've got Leslie, which is a weakening tropical storm in the middle of nowhere. Stays in the middle of nowhere. That's no threat to land. We do note there is a little feature that's near West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale. A 20% chance of that developing as it moves away from the United States. But of course, the focus is on Milton. And obviously, the structure has gone through some unbelievable changes since we spoke yesterday morning. It ramped up with sustained winds of 180 miles an hour. The pressure was under 900 millibars for a while. This morning, the pressure is back up to 924 millibars. I mean, it was a very quick spike in intensity. The sustained winds are 155 miles per hour. That is in Category 4. And we worry about using the term weakening here, weaker. That's kind of misleading. This is still a very powerful, dangerous hurricane. And again, there's no doubt this will probably weaken as it approaches the west coast of Florida. But as that happens, the wind field will be expanding. It will affect a wider area. In fact, the radius of hurricane-force winds will basically double. And it's still expected to be a pretty formidable hurricane at the time of landfall. So this is the latest track from the Hurricane Center, and there's really no change. It comes right into Tampa Bay a little after midnight tomorrow night. This could work out to be one of these pre-dawn type landfalls, which they're never good. No landfall is good, but those are not good at all. And you can see the sustained winds 125 miles an hour at the time of landfall. That's a Category 3. But again, the analog to this, it's Katrina. Did the same thing. Katrina was a 5. It weakened to a 3 at the time of landfall. But anybody on the Mississippi Gulf Coast can tell you what a storm like this can do. The storm surge was very destructive. And again, along and south of the landfall point, that's your big storm surge zone. North of the landfall, it's the offshore flow side. So there's no storm surge issues. But along and south of that landfall, this is going to create problems all the way from Tampa Bay down to Fort Myers Beach, Port Charlotte, places like that. And it's, boy, I'm telling you, where this thing comes in makes all the difference in the world for Tampa and St. Petersburg. And it's a really close call. We'll look at modeling here in just a second. The storm surge projection from the National Hurricane Center for Tampa Bay and points just to the south, 10 to 15 feet. And you got to think about 15-foot storm surge here. That's just not good at all. And, of course, I think most people are heeding the evacuation orders this time. They saw the ramp up quickly in intensity yesterday. So let's go through the modeling. Model fans, the GFS, this is the OZ run, valid today at 4. Vortex over eastern Canada. And again, around here, it's just gorgeous. I mean, goodness, it's nice. Sunny, low humidity, Highs up there, upper 70s and low 80s. So tomorrow, here comes Milton. And again, we stress this will not impact the Florida Panhandle other than rip current danger for those that might try and swim, and we don't want anybody to do that. So this is the American GFS Global model. And I'm telling you, it's the models have jogged a little southward in the last cycle, which is good for Tampa Bay. You want that thing to come in south of Tampa Bay to help Tampa St. Pete. The GFS brings it in the southern shore of Tampa Bay tomorrow night. The European, it's almost identical, maybe a smidgen north of there. It brings it right into Tampa Bay. And again, obviously, for Tampa St. Pete, you have to plan for the worst-case storm surge scenario, and that's a 15-foot storm surge. You've got to plan for that. You have no choice. In points south, you've got to plan for that. And hopefully everybody listened to the evacuation orders and they've gotten out of there. And then once inland, understand this thing will probably, stay a hurricane. The core stays intact as a hurricane right on through Orlando and over toward Daytona Beach and Melbourne. And obviously this will create widespread power outages with downed trees inland. And it could be a case where some people have no power, maybe no water for days, if not weeks. And so, I don't like to give advice. Again, what we do here, and I think all the folks in the weather enterprise like to do this, we give you the information you need so you can make a decision based on your circumstances. Everybody has a different risk tolerance level. Every situation is different. But again, for Orlando, tomorrow into Thursday, it's going to be pretty rough. Hurricane-force wind gusts, chance of downed trees, widespread power outages, and really the same thing all the way over to the East Coast. Now, Jacksonville is obviously on the good north side, but there will be some impact there. And again, even on the South Atlantic coast, there could be a 2 to 4 foot storm surge, maybe a 3 to 5 foot storm surge around Jacksonville as the system moves away from land. So we'll go to Thursday. Milton is, again, moving away from Florida at that point. Of course, we're still in great shape here. And again, we're going to be good Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just beautiful weekend. Sunny, warm afternoons, clear, pleasant nights, highs in the upper 70s and low 80s, lows well down in the 50s. Same thing on Monday, and this is a week from today, Tuesday, the 15th of October, broad troughing over the east, and a new surge of cooler air comes down the pike. Let me tell you what, by the middle of next week, we're going to see many spots in the 40s, and we might see some of the colder pockets of North Alabama hitting the upper 30s for the first time this year. That's about 8 days away. Let's go out 10 days. This is Thursday of next week, October the 17th. Upper low north and east of Alabama, and once again, we're dry. Rain for Birmingham for the next 15 days. Just not much at all, if anything. The mean barely comes off the flat line, about a quarter inch between now and the 23rd of October. There's a look at temperatures. Again, look at the numbers toward the middle of next week. Highs dropping in the 60s and lows well down in the 40s. Wow. That's a sign of the times. Latest long-range outlook. This is for October 15th through the 21st. Temperatures pretty close to average, maybe slightly above here. So these folks are heroes, those that fly the missions into the hurricanes. Without them, we would not know the intensity of these things. This is Miss Piggy, one of the reconnaissance flights into Milton yesterday morning. And goodness, the ride is just, it's not good. Once you get in the eye, it's pretty remarkable when you see that. Never done one of those flights before, but at some point I would kind of like to do that. It's just remarkable. But again, we sincerely thank these men and women for their service that fly these missions. So while the hurricane has gotten all the attention, we got a pretty good geomagnetic storm going on here, and G3 level, and we actually had Aurora displays over North Alabama last night. Now, of course, I went out and looked, and it's really hard to see with the naked eye. It's better to look at these things through a camera lens. But all these photographs were taken not in Minnesota, but in Alabama last night. I didn't get any reports from the southern half of the state, all the photos from the northern part of Alabama. But again, that doesn't happen that often. So not as vivid as the one we saw, a year or so ago, but still pretty impressive geomagnetic storm. So once again, quickly, if you're just joining us here, we're live at 5:29 on Tuesday, October 8th. Obviously, there's been a lot of structural changes with Milton. I mean, this thing has really changed a lot over the past 24 hours. Ramped up to a pressure under 900 millibars, winds of 180 miles an hour. Now the pressure is up, the winds are down. It's a Category 4, but that's still a major, dangerous hurricane here. 155 mile per hour winds. Landfall coming most likely after midnight tomorrow night Eastern Time near Tampa Bay. Is a Category 3, winds of 125 miles an hour. A very destructive storm surge along and south of the center. A life-threatening surge of 10 to 15 feet. And again, it's such a close call for Tampa Bay. The best case scenario is for the storm to come in a little south of Tampa Bay. That's great news for them. But if it comes in a bit north of Tampa Bay, it's the worst case scenario. And it's such a close call. But again, this will create widespread power outages. Some in the Florida Peninsula could be with no power for days, if not weeks. Water could be out in many places. And again, this will disrupt life in a big, big way. And you can see the core of the system coming close to Orlando and Daytona Beach, Melbourne, then back out into the Atlantic. But again, no impact on the weather in Alabama or the central Gulf Coast other than the rip current danger. This morning, headed to Ohatchee for the Ohatchee Elementary School, a weather program there. Then going to do a senior adult event in Heflin in Cleburne County. Tomorrow morning, Wilsonville Elementary, and then Chelsea for a homeschool group in Shelby County. Thursday, Miles Jewish Day School in Birmingham. God's House Kindergarten, Altadena Presbyterian Church in Birmingham. And Friday, Carbon Hill Elementary up in Walker County. No book signing this Saturday. I'll be at the Alabama-South Carolina game for weather support, and the weather will be fine for all the games across the Deep South. We invite you to watch us on television. By the way, if you didn't listen to Weather Brains last night, that was a good one. We had a fascinating show. We had Mike Seidel, we had Jim Cantori, Charles Peake that joined us from Hurricane Country, and had a lot to talk about concerning messaging, Helene, and now Milton. So if you get a chance, you can watch the replay over on the Weather Brains YouTube channel, or, of course, listen to the audio podcast. But again, we invite you to watch us on TV this evening, ABC 3340 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and God bless.